100 pesos on the table for this right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Go for it.
This
Change your
was
goddamn background.
isn't that fun? This is one of the grimmest movies and funniest movies I've ever seen. This is like a hopeless version of Sisu. It's like
Straight to the top of my list for Jim picks of 2020.
I know. I'm trying to think of another movie where not just the good guys and the bad guys die, but everybody
dies.
down to the ants and the armadillos and like the background cactus. Everything gets killed in this film.
I can't wait to get back to Ahihik and talk to Issa about them because
Jim, I sent you a thing. Did you know that the two movies you picked are two parts of a 4-movie quadrilogy?
No, I didn't when
I didn't know
did
that.
it because he didn't have the other 2 movies.
Well, you can find the first one on Netflix. I haven't been able to find the second one anywhere.
The second one is the Law and
third
Herod.
and the fourth one.
Well, yeah, I definitely see some themes here. I mean, there's a lot of connective tissue between these two films, and but this one is just like it's neat because it's like unlike the other one. We'll get into it. It's on the ground, and it's you know what this movie is basically. You know what's an imitation? It's a pastiche.
Scarface?
Right? No, Yojimbo.
Okay.
Well, it's called a neo-western. So
stranger comes into town, although he has relatives there, he has friends there. But there's 2 warring brothers, and so he ingratiates.
Who were played by the same person, right?
Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
for sure.
Exactly. But that's okay.
Except he's got a little skunk white stripe in his
But
hair.
they're all it's Scarface, it's Goodfellas.
Scarface thing.
We've seen this movie 100 times, never from this perspective.
No, that's true.
No, but also somehow this is a Mexican movie that feels racist against Mexicans. Like
the second one you'll really see it.
The self-criticism is definitely there. These guys are down on themselves. That again.
You guys know this is supposed to be a comedy, right?
It is a black comedy.
I think it fails. I think it fails at that. Actually,
I laughed.
It's a little too serious.
Well, I would argue that this movie is like just maybe a touch too serious to be funny, and the second movie is a touch too funny to be taken seriously.
Okay. So it's off on tone a little bit, huh?
I'm going to have the same basic criticism for both movies, and that is that these movies do not have the best plot, but they certainly have the most plot.
Yeah.
They do, yes.
The second one for sure.
Both of these movies have one too many subplots, and I think they're both just too long.
They go to 140, I think.
I was never bored watching this one.
They're 2 hours and 20 minutes.
They're about 140. They could probably.
I did like this one better than the other one.
Yeah.
I think you could trim 20 minutes. I think you could trim 20 minutes out of both of these pretty easily, and it would improve the experience.
Yeah.
I also thought by 2010 we were over the endless amounts of rounds in a magazine.
Oh no.
He fires about 70 rounds in that last out of 130 round magazine for an AK. I was just like, okay, man.
Well,
originally I was like,
that's like 2 for 1,
Originally I was like, that's like 45 shots, and then I actually went back and counted, and I lost count at like 62. Like it's it was just like
I think it's supposed to be a comedy or some sort of like satire.
Yeah, but
although
so
I have a feeling that where Guillermo del Toro is not an outlier. He's part of I want to see more Mexican flicks.
I loved every second of this movie. I thought it was great just to see a movie made in the interior of Mexico, where you normally don't get a lot of movies, at least that I've seen. I thought all the acting, with a couple of exceptions, was great. It was really cool to see so many of these people show up in the next movie as completely different kinds of characters.
I don't buy his transition to badassery. Although I just don't.
It's a little quick, even though the movie's too long.
Right.
I mean, he starts like, wow, it's fun to have a lot of money. Like,
I disagree.
I like repeatedly over and over. He says, "Well, I guess we didn't have any choice. I don't have any choice but to do this. We didn't."
Well,
have
and she says, "What is it? We can get used to anything but starving."
Mm-hmm.
Like the. And then also everyone in this movie is irredeemable. Like every character in this movie is irredeemable.
Well, that's the thing.
The whore with the heart of copper.
I'm going to disagree that
but she's the one who eventually is pushing him to stay. Like it's like she takes a
likes the money
turn
too.
right. She takes a turn at a certain point too, and it's like you're gonna get him killed, and the whole first half of the movie you're bitching about how he's gonna get killed doing the same thing your ex did. Like it's and then that's gonna get your son killed. Like the last moment where the kid bursts in and guns down those guys during the drug deal, it's like, well, he's fucked. Like,
but that's the only way this movie.
There's going to be a fourth too.
For me, I just dotted the I because everybody dies. That kid's going to die here, so it's
no. That's the
I'm trying to make. Let me back up a bit.
Right, it is the ending of Hurt Locker.
Tad said he thought that the main character went bad really quick. I disagree. I think he did it by little steps. You know, he was going to be a narco. He had a gun. He was enforcing. And then when it came down to killing, he didn't. First time out, he couldn't do it.
He passes out when they cut off the guy's wrists, and then I feel like 5 minutes later he's like shooting people, and it's just kind of like
maybe like 15 or 20 minutes later. But
it was like his baptism of blood.
At the very end, when he's trying to get his kid out of the area, and he pops that cop, and he's 100% gone at this point. You know, he's just killing people because he needs to kill people. You know, to get what he wants. So
well, it's not like the cops are heroes in this either.
Also, the thing I knew, Chris, reminded me for some reason, needs is Roy Cooter on track for Paris Tech.
Right.
Yeah, it does feel like a parallel, doesn't it?
Big time. No, I thought, I like the look of it. I could criticize some of the individual performances. I didn't think his wife was particularly good, but again, just realizing about halfway through that this is supposed to be funny, or at least satire. Like at first I was like, this is really weird tonally. Like there's really awful things happening, but these are almost cartoon characters.
So if anyone needs a corner here, it's been
quiet boy.
Juan El Silencio in the corner there.
Yeah.
Silencio 1.
Silencio 1 and 2. Anyway.
This movie is competently, if unimaginatively, lit.
Yeah. Although it looks a lot better than Mexican movies from like the 60s.
Looks like sand.
It would be nice if it was less yellow.
Well, it's like again, movie being racist, people being racist about themselves. It's like they're using the gold, orange,
right. They're using the Mexico filter.
They're using the Mexico, which is also the Middle East filter. It
is also.
That's where Breaking Bad got it.
Yeah,
I'll bet you they got it from this.
Oh yeah.
Every time they go south the border in that show where Better Call Saul, everything's bright yellow.
That's also every single white person goes to Mexico thing that's been made since the color movies.
Well,
basically.
no, you could sound quite colorful, didn't it, Chris?
I'm just saying, whenever you have people going south of the border, they make it this sepia-ish, and it's just sort of like, okay, guys, I just, and when it's the whole movie, it's not there for contrast. It's just sort of like, could you move the filter off the camera and let me see what it actually looks like? Because I'll bet it's beautiful.
I bet you it's a dump.
I think it's dusty and
hot. Reminded me.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a pathetical statement in the middle of the film when they're burying these two guys who beg for their lives, and he says, you had to do it, and then he says, the other guy says, we're in hell, this is hell, and it's like, that kind of informed how the poster worked in this. It's going to be dusty and dull and unpleasant, every last bit of it. It's not going to be any green or niceness to this.
If you take the Benicio del Toro segment, Traffic, and extend it, you get this, right?
Or the scene at the end of Seven where they go out into the desert, which is a movie that I will defend to the death as one of the best looking movies of all time.
I love that
movie. And it still annoys me when that happens. Like I think I'm just over this as an idea. And
this was a choice. You're right. Do you remember Nacho Libre? I can't recommend it one way or the other, but that was filmed just north in Oaxaca.
I'm gonna pick the movie that Jean Reno is in that Nacho Libre is based on.
Either way, I'm just saying
that's on my list.
But in that film, the place is brightly colored. It's green.
Yeah.
And it's just like a whole. It's the whole looks completely different from this, even though it's just about a couple hundred miles away.
But there is a lot of color in Mexico.
Well, of course,
there's a lot of color in the decorations, in the paint, there is a lot of greenery. Even in the summertime, there's greenery. Like It's frustrating because I think the second movie does a really, really good job of making Mexico look pretty good. Like, and this movie, it feels very amateurish. It feels like it's not. I know it's not his first movie, but it almost feels like a first.
It's a low budget feel to it. Oh, nice drink, John.
Other than
guy who brought the Corona
shot, John.
Oh, is it my corner again?
Yeah, well, no, you brought the Corona.
So my comment about the lighting being okay is the nicest thing I have to say.
Oh, here we go. Get him.
Jim, you have now toppled WR Mysteries of the Organism for the movie I hated the most that Jim ever picked.
At least I'm consistent.
Well, I mean, at least WR Mysteries of the Organism had things that surprised me.
Orgone energy. You have that whole Orgone energy section.
Not expecting the penis plastic caster lady to show up.
Ice skating, that was fun.
This fucking movie, I mean, it's so fucking dim-witted to me. It was like, not only is there nothing surprising in the 2.5 hours, there's nothing funny, and it's staged like it's some kind of satire or farce, and I never laughed once.
It has what I like to call joke-shaped objects.
It has joke-shaped objects throughout. None of the characters are more than one-dimensional. I mean, he comes to town. Where was he 20 years? Why didn't you send me a postcard? We never get an answer. Why is he good at the beginning? Why does he smile so much? Why does he start killing people? I guess money. Okay. There's just the plot just sort of mechanically clicked through the things that I expected to happen, and then they happen. And I will say, of the two films, this one was had a lot of sex and extremely violent scenes, which kept me from lapsing into a coma. So that I'll give it the edge over the television movie that
I wish I'd watched. I watched this second, and I wish I'd watched it first.
I watched.
I feel like there is a real step up in competence in the next movie, and I watched it in reverse, and it was like, oh, he became a worse filmmaker.
No. Well, yeah, I watched the other one first, the TV one, and then I watched this, and I'm sorry, I thought there's something direct about it. I mean, you could say, John, that this is like by the numbers, it's kind of builds, there's no surprises, but could you honestly say 20 minutes in the film that you knew that every single character is going to be dead at the end?
Yes.
I didn't ask you, I asked John.
I didn't care.
Well, okay, they know.
I didn't believe in anything I was looking. That's why when they sawed his hands off and cut his tongue out, I was like, that would have upset me if I'd been watching another film.
You know what I was thinking about? You know what I was thinking about when they cut his tongue out? I was thinking about how they did the effect practically. That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about
pretty good.
Him squeezing the blood bag out of his hand over where the knife blade was, so that it would come out of his mouth like that. And I was like, that's a pretty good practical effect.
And then the hands looked good too.
When the guy goes into the car dealership and he comes out and he throws the 2 fingers in the ear at the guy and he just tosses him out the window, those look pretty good too. There's good practical effects in this. There's a lot of good squib work in it.
There's this is reminds me a little bit of El Mariachi in that I think it's definitely made for a local market for action films. And so I don't think these guys are shooting for the Raptors international film wise.
Was this a hit in Mexico?
It was a big hit.
Not as big as the next one.
Not as
big
as
the next one's like the 8th highest grossing movie in Mexican history.
Wow.
Yeah. I've seen this movie a bazillion times. I actually like these kinds of movies. I watch them as often,
Have you seen this before?
No, and I will watch this again, and I will recommend it to others, although not you dummies. I mean, I think that
me too, man.
Like I said, for no other, the first thing I thought was, oh, this is cool. I wonder sometimes, I have people, I know that there are people that work around here for contractors that I get friendly with, and then one day they're gone.
Right.
Where'd they go? Well, they went back home.
Yeah.
And I wonder,
did they go back home or were they sent back home?
I hope that's a good thing and not a bad thing, because this story, I went to America to go and try and make it, and make it work out. And so now here I am back at the town that I grew up in.
I was there for 20 years and they deported me.
Right.
Right. And it's that scene at the beginning, don't come back, as they're uncuffing him and off you go. And then on the bus on the way there, it's he's robbed. He's it's just,
that's quite a kicker. You have to admit, as movies start, that's quite a kicker.
That's pretty bleak.
This is the perspective of the.
That's why I knew everyone was going to die. I was like, oh, this is this movie.
This is a we usually don't get, which is what is happening for the folks down there.
I'll give it that, and I would say that's probably why it was a hit there, because it's recognition. It was just like, ha ha, this is exactly what it's like, you know?
And the PRI, who were in power in Mexico for 71 years, from 1929
we'll meet them next movie
to 2000, were very, very, very heavily censorious of movies that were critical of Mexico. So this is the period of time where you start getting movies that are self-critical. And so I think both of these movies are popular. The other one even ties into more deep things that go on in Mexican politics and media and stuff like that, which I thought was
this
interesting.
movie I thought did a fair amount of showing just the endemic corruption, how all these corrupted pieces prop this thing up,
right?
In it for money.
Well, they do cover that, right? Because I heard Mexicans tell me, "Oh, well, yeah, because the police make shit wages, so of course you have to have
several times.
They're easy to bribe."
Yeah. It's New Orleans. New Orleans was the same way for a really long time. Like when I lived in New Orleans, it was the cops there were making like $29K a year, so they were all in the fucking take.
Yeah,
like.
What I felt like I was watching was this filmmaker trying to cover as many of these. This is fucked up, and that's fucked up, and this is fucked up, and this is how this.
Right, because he finally has the chance to do it after his previous two movies were heavily censored by the government.
And Ted, what you said, what you said kind of
out of that.
That makes a good perspective on it. Is what you said about the pre-censoring movies.
Yeah.
So this must have just been like throwing off that straight.
Hold on, I have a question about that. This is a film about this guy's throwing a big spotlight on the whole narco scene, right? With narco corridos playing in the soundtrack, and basically the culture is right there.
Oh, the music's so much better in this movie than it is in the next one.
But the question is, do you think this was? How do you think the narcos felt about this film?
So apparently I think this guy was in a bar. Right. And actual narcos walked up to him and leaned over to him and were like, "We're the real ones." And he was like, it's the most scared he's ever been in his life. Like,
or either they're going to hate it and try to kill everybody involved in this film, or they're going to love it like gangsters love Scarface,
or The Godfather,
or The Godfather.
Yeah, it's like, we recognize it's me. That's great. Look at this is my cameo. This really happened to me once.
Oh, I do have something else nice to say, which is, Ted, when you started telling the story about that actor, I just like that actor.
Me too.
I like him in both movies, where he's a bad guy in the first one, he's a good guy in the second one.
He's in a lot of American movies.
I just there's something about him I like, and I like the main guy too. What's his name?
Damien Alcazar.
Yeah,
he's very likable. He's very likable.
He's in a DC movie too. He's in Beetle.
Yeah, both of these.
No, there's that one. There's that one handsome.
This guy works a lot in America.
No, this handsome handsome dude near the end. He was in Better Call Saul. And, and he ends up in a couple of these Marvel
it's
movies.
Good that you mentioned that, because it's interesting to compare this movie with the narco stuff that takes place in Mexico, or at least close to Mexico, in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, I definitely see a connection.
If you want to see a really, really good Mexican take on crime and modern narco stuff, there's a TV series that's on Amazon Prime called 000. And it's about the Mexican cartels making a deal with the Italian mafia to sell them heroin. It's really good. It's also the only time I've seen an actual Mexican axolotl machine gun in a movie. Like they have a internal assault rifle that they make, and you never see it represented in media. Even in Mexican media, they use AKs or ARs for stuff. Like, and it's a really good show. I watched it early in COVID, and I highly recommend it.
Scott, we need a Tad's Gun Corner graphic.
Yeah, probably you should put that behind him and just a
little ring of bullets.
I'd like to
or
see
something.
what an axolotl looks like. Every time you talk about guns, you actually have a slide for it. You're like,
but I didn't think about it until we were just talking about it now. I like both of these guys a lot. I just, again, have a problem with his characterization. That's not the actor's fault. That's the movie's fault.
It's a flat-footed script.
But I think a lot of the acting is very good. I know somebody said earlier that they didn't think the girlfriend was particularly good. She's a model who did did some like Mexican Skinamax stuff. She was hired to be naked in this movie.
You think?
I mean, it's hard to even fault the acting when it's just like everybody like the way that the main character went so quickly from to corruption to when as soon as he got a taste of the money, she just decided, okay, well now I love you the way I loved your brother, and then there's no motivation. There's no
the movie happens. The movie happens to her.
Yeah,
like
there's also that weird effect that
she's a whore, she's used to telling people she loves
and making new attractions, being attracted to people like that.
Oh, there's a certain type in this beginning of this film, and when she shows up, it's like, and using the metaphor that Tad did, it's like a supermodel showing up in a puddle full of axolotls. It's like, okay, she sticks out. She doesn't look anything like anything else you're seeing in this movie. And so totally different kind of thing. I thought she was good, and I realized that she was going to die. And then the guy behind you, the guy we like, behind Tad, once you introduced to his family, I knew he was going to die. It was like,
the guy who doesn't die was pretty good too.
Kind of fucking sad.
It is sad. I feel sad for him because he's a nice guy. Well, for a horrible murderer, but he's a nice guy. Right. Okay, well, I'm stuck here.
We're all bad.
I don't know. I do like the scene where he lets the other dude kill his brother. Like that was a very sort of like, okay, this guy has a code. Like he's fucked up in a real way, but like he does have this code, and like I love he keeps giving the guy shit for being a snitch too. He's like, oh, you're selling your brother out for 1,000 pesos? Fuck you. Right. And then I thought that was just going to be the like, get the fuck out of here and don't come back. One of the few things that surprised me in this movie when he was like, hey, do you want to kill the guy who did this to you? Like, we'll let you do that. Like that scene was, again, I think that's just good writing. Like I think that was a well done character moment for this guy.
I also like the two guys who speak indigenous, the sergeant and I can't remember.
Well, so that's something I want to bring up too, is one of the things that I thought was really interesting about both of these movies is how much they center the difference between white Mexicans and native Mexicans. Like it's much more it's much more directly said.
More direct in the second.
Right. Well, and he calls him Pocho all the time, which is Pocho is a derogatory term for people who go across the border. Like
basically assimilated Mexican Americans.
Right. Fair-skinned mestizo.
And then they call each other whitey, or other people call them whitey.
Güero, yes, which I have actually heard.
Blondie. Yeah.
The other interesting thing I learned from the guy who suggested these movies is that there's a new term, or I don't know how new it is, but I'd never heard it before, which is whitexican. When I was in Spanish class, they were called criollos, which are basically the European-looking Mexicans.
Right. And those are the people who are all like the upper class of society.
The guys running that television.
Right. Well, you see it with the
cast in telenovelas.
In the second one.
All right. Anyway, Colin,
I really like this. I'll watch it. I recommend it. I'm sorry. I thought it was great.
I wish I liked it or hated it.
Okay, are we doing thumbs? Okay, well, this is like, I thought this is a regional film. I think it was made for Mexican audiences, so it's a little bit off, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny.
I think it's funny that John's having the reaction to this movie that I had to hell or high water.
That is pretty strange. Also, the cursing in this film made me a little nostalgic because this is how my grandparents used to carry on at home. Chingo tu madre, cabron, and things like that. It's like all day.
Like English cursing too. It doesn't really make sense.
No, it's great.
I would like a tally of how many times the word cabron was.
To the point that the subtitles don't even say asshole. They just say cabron.
It says cabron. It's like, I just give up after.
I kept hearing pendejo, chinga, and cabron, and the subtitle was different every time.